The night before my son's first day of high school, we were setting up a little, good luck, surprise in his room. My neighbor's kids started firing paintball guns across our fence, splattering the house, the windows, even my son's new backpack. When I ran outside and screamed, "Stop!" their father came over, threw a paintball at my feet, and said, "Boys will be boys. Maybe your kid needs to toughen up anyway." My son walked into school the next day carrying a bag covered in stains and laughter. I wasn't the kind of dad who picked fights with neighbors. In fact, I was the avoid conflict at all costs kind of guy. My wife Rachel used to joke that I could see someone dump garbage in our yard and I'd just quietly pick it up and throw it away without saying a word. That version of me died the night before my son Jake's first day of high school. It was supposed to be a proud, quiet family moment. Jake had been nervous about starting 9th grade all summer. He wasn't exactly the most outgoing kid, and the idea of a giant new school, new teachers, and a cafeteria full of strangers had him losing sleep. We'd decided to set up a little surprise in his room while he was gaming downstairs, a handmade "Good luck, freshman" sign, a new phone case he'd wanted, and a little note from me and Rachel telling him how proud we were. His backpack, the one he'd saved up all summer to buy, sat by the window. Black, with silver stripes and extra compartments for his robotics club gear. Jake had spent hours researching the perfect one. That's when I heard the first crack. I thought it was a firework at first. Then the yellow paint exploded across Jake's bedroom window. 3 more shots followed, blue, red, green. Paint splattered across the house siding, the window glass, and worst of all, Jake's brand new backpack. If you live in a suburb long enough, there's always that family. Rick Murphy and his 2 sons, Kyle, 16, and Trevor, 14, were that family. Loud, obnoxious, disrespectful. The boys were known for cutting through other people's yards, shooting BB guns at squirrels, and swearing at passing cars. Rick thought it was hilarious. Most of us in the neighborhood put up with it because, frankly, Rick was intimidating. Big guy, always had a beer in his hand, and he worked some kind of construction job that kept him rough around the edges. I stormed outside and caught the Murphy boys pointing paintball guns over the fence, laughing. "Hey!" I shouted. "Cut it out! What the hell is wrong with you?" Kyle lowered his gun, smirking. Trevor just snickered. And then Rick walked out of his garage like he'd been waiting for this moment. He didn't look surprised or even remotely apologetic. Instead, he casually tossed a paintball to the ground at my feet. "Boys will be boys," he said. "Maybe your kid needs to toughen up anyway." I stood there, fist clenched so tight my fingers went numb. That was when Jake came outside, saw the mess, and froze. He didn't yell. He didn't cry. He just picked up his stained backpack, gave me this small, hollow look, and went back inside. Rachel's face was pale when I turned back to her. "This isn't just a prank anymore," she whispered. They humiliated him. She was right. And I decided then and there, this wasn't going to end with an apology. Rick was going to pay. Slowly. Completely. I didn't yell. I didn't threaten. I didn't even call the police. Not yet. Instead, I did what I was best at, observing. First, I visited the county office on my lunch break. Picked up everything I could find on Rick Murphy's property records. That's when I found out he'd applied for permits to build a new deck 3 years ago, and never closed them. Worse, he'd added a shed behind his house right over the utility easement. Illegal as hell. Second, I'd bought 2 outdoor security cams and installed them to face the shared fence line. The Murphy boys weren't careful. Within a week, I had footage of them throwing garbage into Mrs. Ellison's flower beds and firing paintballs at parked cars. I started keeping a log, date, time, incident, photo/video proof. Rachel thought I was being obsessive. "Maybe they'll calm down," she said. "No," I told her. "They've never been held accountable. That changes now." Our HOA was mostly useless. But there was one person who hated the Murphys more than anyone, Mr. Morales. He headed the neighborhood watch and had already filed complaints against Rick for noise violations. I invited him over, sat him down, and showed him 2 weeks' worth of video footage. His eyes widened. "Why haven't you gone to the police?" "Because I want more than fines. I want them to be outcasts. I want everyone to know exactly who they are." He nodded slowly. By the end of that week, I'd shared the footage with 7 other families who had similar stories. Together, we pushed the HOA to call a special meeting. We also handed copies of the evidence to our police liaison and county code enforcement. The Murphys were now officially on the radar. Code enforcement showed up first. They cited Rick for the illegal shed and the unfinished deck. He was fined over $7,000 and given 30 days to fix both issues or face escalating penalties. Rick's response? He doubled down. "That loser and his crybaby son are trying to ruin us," he shouted during a neighborhood meeting. "This is harassment." But it was too late. The Murphys were blacklisted. No more help from neighbors. No more invitations to community events. The kids were banned from the local basketball courts after someone caught Trevor lighting firecrackers on the bleachers. Kyle and Trevor tried to keep up their bullying streak. Big mistake. The Murphy boys had a private Snapchat group where they bragged about their pranks. I learned about it from a friend of Jake's, whose older brother was in the group and sick of their antics. He leaked the videos. I sent them, anonymously, to the school administration. The fallout was immediate. Kyle was suspended for 2 weeks and removed from the JV football team. Trevor was banned from participating in any school sports or extracurriculars for the semester. Rick lost it. He came storming up my driveway that night, fists clenched, veins bulging in his neck. "You think you've won?" he barked. "You think this makes you a man? Hiding behind cops and teachers like a coward?" I stood my ground. "This isn't about winning, Rick. It's about accountability. Something you clearly never learned." For a second, I thought he might hit me. But then Rachel stepped outside with her phone out, already recording. Rick froze. Swore under his breath. Turned and stalked back to his house. Now Rick's house is the one with overgrown grass, a half-demolished deck, and an empty backyard where the shed used to be. The Murphy boys don't even make eye contact when they pass us. Jake? He's doing just fine. Joined the robotics team. Made a new group of friends. He still carries that stained backpack sometimes. I offered to replace it, but he shook his head. "It reminds me to never back down. Rick's got more skeletons in his closet. And I'm going to expose every single one." Rick still had his pride. And pride makes desperate men dangerous. About 3 weeks after the school suspensions, things got quiet. Too quiet. No paintballs. No slingshots. No trash in Mrs. Ellison's flower beds. Rick even mowed his lawn and started fixing the deck like the code enforcement had ordered. Most of the neighbors thought it was over. But I knew better. A man like Rick doesn't accept consequences. He plots revenge. And he found a way to strike back. It started when Rachel's car, a 2017 Honda CR-V, was keyed across the entire driver's side while parked in our driveway overnight. Deep, angry scratches. No witnesses. No cameras caught it. Rachel was furious. "It's them. It has to be." "I know," I said. "But we can't prove it yet." Then, 2 nights later, Jake's bike was stolen out of our backyard. Someone cut the lock clean through. But that wasn't the worst part. The next morning, I found a letter taped to our front door. No envelope. Just a folded sheet of paper. "Keep pushing and things will get worse. You've been warned." No signature. I took it straight to the police. They logged it but admitted without fingerprints or video, it wouldn't lead anywhere. That's when Mr. Morales gave me the next piece of the puzzle. He called me around noon. "You know Rick filed a vandalism claim on his truck?" he asked. "Says someone scratched it up and smashed a tail light. He told the neighbors he thinks you did it." I nearly laughed. But it wasn't funny. Rick was trying to flip the script, to make me look like the aggressor. If the insurance company believed him, he'd pocket the money. If the police believed him, I could end up facing charges. This wasn't just neighborhood squabbling anymore. This was war. I decided it was time to bring in outside help. My younger brother, Tony, worked private security in Philadelphia. Not a licensed PI, but he knew how to gather intel without crossing any legal lines. He came down for the weekend and parked an old beater car on our street, pretending to be a contractor working a roofing job nearby. Inside, he set up a small dash cam facing the Murphy house and walked the block with a GoPro clipped to his tool belt. For 3 days, Tony watched and listened. On the third night, he hit gold. Rick wasn't just trying to frame me. He was trying to cash in. Tony overheard him bragging to a buddy in the garage, doors wide open, voices carrying farther than Rick realized. "I told the adjuster the scratches were new. Hell, Kyle did those months ago after he backed into a shopping cart. Insurance'll pay for it now. And if this idiot next door takes the fall? Even better." Tony got it all on video. Crystal clear audio. Rick had committed insurance fraud. I went straight to the police. At first, they were cautious. Audio recordings are tricky. But once they realized Rick was already under multiple complaints and code violations, and once I handed over Tony's footage, they agreed to open a new investigation. Then I contacted Rick's insurance company directly. Sent them the recording. They dropped his claim immediately and flagged his policy for fraud review. By the following week, Rick wasn't just facing code fines and school sanctions. He was facing potential felony fraud charges. While this was unfolding, Darren, the guy from the county office, dropped another bombshell. Turns out, when Rick built his illegal shed, he didn't just violate codes. He dug up part of a utility easement that serviced the entire southern half of the block. Water, gas, and internet lines ran under that patch of land. Any damage? Rick was fully liable. And guess what? A slow water leak had been reported 2 houses down. Public Works sent a crew to inspect. If they found Rick's shed foundation had caused the leak, and early reports said it had, he'd be facing thousands in repair costs, not to mention potential lawsuits from affected neighbors. The Murphys weren't just socially isolated anymore. They were legally and financially cornered. And still, Rick wasn't giving up. I heard from Mr. Morales that Rick had been ranting to anyone who'd listen. "This is harassment. This is a conspiracy. I'll sue every last one of them." But the neighbors had rallied. Even the families who used to stay neutral were siding against the Murphys now. Jake, meanwhile, kept his head high. One afternoon, he came home, tossed his backpack on the couch, and said, "You don't have to keep fighting them, Dad. It's over." But I shook my head. It's not over until people like Rick Murphy learn they can't destroy other people's lives without losing everything they built for themselves. Jake didn't argue. He just nodded. He understood now. Rick didn't go quietly. Once the insurance fraud investigation kicked into gear and Public Works confirmed the shed had caused damage to the water main, he stopped pretending to be the tough guy. He started playing the victim. I heard he went to the HOA board claiming harassment. He even filed a police report trying to say I had set up the insurance fraud and was orchestrating the neighborhood against him. I thought it was laughable. Until 2 sheriff's deputies showed up at my door with a warrant to search my security cameras. Here's where I have to be honest. I'd gotten so focused on Rick's every move that I'd crossed the line myself. One of my cameras, the one facing the fence, also captured some of his backyard, without his consent. In our county, that's a privacy violation if the person presses charges. And Rick did. My footage was ruled partly inadmissible. It didn't erase what Tony had recorded, or the school evidence, or the code violations. But it weakened my case. The sheriff's deputy gave me a stern warning. "You've got the law on your side now. Don't screw it up trying to play hero." Rachel wasn't as kind. You said this was about teaching him accountability, she snapped. Not ruining yourself in the process. She was right. I stepped back. Let the system do what it was already doing. It all hit the Murphys fast. Rick was officially charged with insurance fraud and ordered to repay the insurer plus fines. The county fined him again for the water main damage, over $20,000 this time, with possible civil lawsuits pending from affected neighbors. His job let him go. His boss didn't want the bad press tied to their construction company. Kyle and Trevor? Their suspension stayed on their records. Trevor tried joining another sports team later that semester but was rejected. Kyle's chances at any kind of football scholarship evaporated. Word got around the school. Kids who used to follow them around started keeping their distance. Even their so-called friends stopped inviting them out. And the Snapchat videos? They surfaced in more circles than just the school. Kyle's college applications took a hit because of it. The Murphy boys had finally learned what it meant to be held accountable. One evening, just after sunset, Rick came to my door. No yelling. No threats. He looked smaller. Like all the fight had leaked out of him. You happy now? He asked. His voice cracked a little. You win. You destroyed my family. I didn't say anything for a long time. Then I replied. No, Rick. You destroyed your family. I just made sure you couldn't destroy mine. He didn't argue. He just nodded, turned, and walked back across the street. By winter, the Murphys sold their house. The bank may have forced it, no one knows for sure. A moving truck showed up one icy Saturday morning. By the end of the day, they were gone. The new family who bought the place. A quiet older couple. They introduced themselves politely. No kids. No paintball guns. Jake finally let me buy him a new backpack. But he still kept the old one hanging by his desk. That one reminds me of who I don't want to be, he told me. Was I perfect? No. I let anger pull me too far at times. I should have trusted the process sooner. I should have listened when Rachel said to protect our family without becoming reckless. But I wasn't sorry. Not really. Because some people only understand consequences when they hit rock bottom. And thanks to a paintball gun, a ruined backpack, and a father's promise, Rick Murphy finally hit his